Talking Tottenham, a fantasyfocus.com production.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 175 of Talking Tottenham. Bucky, joined as always by Danny Shakes, following just a terrible performance against Crystal Palace at home. Or was it at home or was it Selhurst?
No, it was at Selhurst Park. It was at Selhurst.
Yeah, of course, I dropped the ball. This is not a match that I've revisited yet. Shakes, I know you have a lot on your mind considering first off, the lineup, I think, is probably where you want to start. And the choices and decisions made by Nuno leading up to this match, some of which were out of his control. But I'll turn it over to you because you've been jonesing all day to hop on the mic and rip. So I'm going to give you the air right now.
I'm always jonesing to rip with you, Bucks. Always. Talk to you about Spurs. By the way, COVID update, still cannot taste, cannot smell, thanks to Nuno. Not sure if I can feel either, Bucks. That was a terrible performance. Yeah, lineup-wise, not a fan. I'm sure not many people were. Spurs weren't going against Chelsea or Liverpool or Man City or Man United. They were going to Crystal Palace, yet trotted out three defensive midfielders and looked basically non-existent in the final third as a result of that lineup. Granted, I get it. Nuno's hands were super tied when you have three guys on quarantine / incarceration almost over in South America, and then just a flurry of injuries, including one that also happened in the 12th minute for Spurs when Eric Dyer went out. We'll talk about that too a little bit, Bucks, in a second. But I mean, I don't know if Nuno tactically wanted to just get it to a certain minute mark and then actually bring in people with offensive minds like Heel or Ndombele, but bottom line is, I think it was a big whiff on the lineup. You saw it unfold before your eyes that Crystal Palace knew they could just rule the midfield and just do whatever they want. Spurs should have been down at half. They were not. Somehow they made it 0-0 at halftime. And then all hell broke loose. Tanganga gets 2 yellows in like 5 minutes. Game's over at that point. But Crystal Palace tacks on 3 goals against Spurs. It sucked.
The whole setup, I think it starts with this. So you had run out a midfield 3 of Skip, Højbjerg, and Dele for 3 consecutive wins. And then you brought in Brian Heel, a.k.a. the Gilster. For what reason, if it isn't to slot him in on the left forward spot and keep Dele playing in the same position that he's found success and found some comfort in that new role? That is so puzzling to me, to bring in Winks with Skip and Højbjerg. That's like taking, let's say you're at a nice buffet line and you just take 3 different kinds of chicken when there was also maybe some fajita steak, some shrimp, something like that. I'm thinking we're at a nice banquet of some sort, Shakes, but you just go with 3 separate types of chicken because all we had out there was different types of just grilled chicken, not even any fancy shit.
You know what drives me nuts, Bucks? When you go to a wedding and you're sitting at a table with a couple and they had the choice of whatever the menu items were and they got the same thing. I can't stand that. You got to go variety. Like if you have steak or fish, you get one of each and then you can share it with your significant other.
I'm not big on just slicing stuff open and putting it on an individual's plate, but
well, I'm just saying you can try it. Like, or you, I don't know. That's just the way I go, man. I can't handle just the duplication, and that's what we got. I mean, everyone thought Skip wasn't going to play, right? Like we thought he like pulled his groin and could have been out for weeks or whatever. Then suddenly he's suiting up, he's starting, played the full 90. Thanks for not burning a third sub, by the way. Now we're back to Jose territory with Nuno. Just we're going to play 10 men. Everyone's coming from international break, and we're still not going to sub out a guy. So that was stupid. And one of our subs was in the 12-minute mark. The other one was pretty much forced hand because of a red card. So I thought that was ridiculous, Bucks. But when Skip showed up, I agree with you. Why not just play Heel on the left side? Then you have Kane, Heel, Mora, and then you can rock out the Højbjerg, Skip, Dele experience again. That made all the sense in the world instead of all the wacky shit you and I were coming up with these 3-5-2s and whatever else that we were going to do because we thought we were without Skip. We didn't even know if Højbjerg was going to be okay or Kane was going to be okay just because they were coming off full 90s for their international team on Wednesday before the Saturday early afternoon tilt against Crystal Palace. None of that made sense at all. I did get Emerson starting. I mean, if you're going to bring in that kind of talented right back from Barcelona and he's already in game shape, he's fit, you're going to start him immediately. And that almost had to happen because then you're slotting Tanganga over to fill the other center back role next to Dyer. Other than, that was the only stuff that made sense to me. I just can't get over Heel not starting. And I also cannot get over Ndombele not coming in later on, even in halftime or 55th minute, 60th minute. It did look like Heel was going to come on eventually, but maybe that all got shelved after the red card and we just got even more defensive. But it just seemed doomed from the start. And then you just watched it unfold before your eyes and it was doomed.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that factors in is the fact that Dele only passes with his right boot. So by placing him at the forward front of the line, in there with Kane and in there with Lucas, I just don't understand why you wouldn't have Heel and his golden left boot. Soon to be golden. I think it's at a silver left boot right now.
Silver and climbing.
Silver and climbing, yes.
The only thing I can think of, like I said a little bit earlier, is Nuno had this minute mark in his mind, like 65th minute, whatever it might be. And once we get there, if the game is 0-0 or just whatever, we mucked it up, then I get to bring in a little bit more firepower. It's just, I thought that's the way he was going to tackle it if he didn't have Skip available and possibly Højbjerg and, not knowing the Dyer situation after that unfolded, which I think probably screwed things up a little bit, but still it was the midfield that sucked. It wasn't the center back pairing until Tanganga lost his mind for 10 minutes. So maybe that was just the goal. Get it to this minute mark. Then I'm going to bring in Ndombele. I'm going to bring in Heel. We're going to figure this out. Maybe even bring in Scarlett, but it never got to that point. So although Nuno shoulders, in my opinion, the most blame, second most goes to your boy Tanganga. Spurs were actually 0-0 in the 58th minute before he got that red card. The yellow card in the 53rd minute, Bucks, we got to talk about it. I hated it by him. I understand he's trying to stand up for his teammate who's injured, and he just went at Zaha. Really, Zaha could have gotten a red. If he, swiped and connected in Tanganga's face, when they got into that scuffle, it could have been a straight-up red, for him. Really, I also thought maybe it could have been a red for Tanganga because it was such a check and it almost went across his throat or upper chest area. All of it was bad. But at that point, just you have to have composure. If you're going to play center back in the Prem and you're going against guys like, Wilfried Zaha all the time, you just got to have composure. And then 5 minutes later, Tanganga does not illustrate that composure, draws the obvious second yellow, easy decision for the referee. And next thing you know, Spurs are playing down a man for the next 30 minutes, and then that scraps everything. So even if it was a shitty plan that was actually kind of working for Nuno, Spurs at that point were screwed. You already were giving up this game. Shots were 18-2. Spurs had one of those on net, and I think it was a feeble Lucas Moura attempt in the second half. Kane, I don't think, touched the ball once in the box. I don't know if you saw that stat. Nope. It just was an absolute disgrace of a performance. And it's something that you would have seen at the end of the Jose era, not at the beginning of any coach's era. So it just was so unsettling from the start. You watched it play out before your eyes. Somehow, though, in the moment, you're like, wow, 50th minute, Spurs are actually still here. Maybe they can make some changes tactically as well as bring in some players. And then it all just went to hell anyway because they're starting their fifth-string center back, and he lost his mind.
I didn't think that we stood a chance. I mean, I think they had 7 shots and we might have had 1 or 0 in the first half. The last time we got our nice Opta stats here. The last time Spurs only had 2 shots on net, or excuse me, just 2 shots. One of those was on net in a Premier League match was 2005.
It was probably against whoever was it, against Arsenal or Chelsea, a team that was probably vying at the top of the table, not Crystal Palace, who sits in 11th.
I have no clue. That.
I'm just saying, I'm sure whatever stats you want to group this against, to show Spurs is just incompetence in the final third, measure that against any game in the past, and I'm sure like all those top games were against top level teams, not Crystal Palace. I know it was on the road, but man alive. But thank God this wasn't at home. When you asked if it was at home, Bucks, it just would have been an absolute disaster with probably how the supporters handled that. So
that just shows how tuned out I was by the end of that match.
Yeah,
I had no
like,
clue where it was played. Everything was just blurry surrounding the pitch. Like none of it really mattered. I've stayed off social media for the most part, or Spurs Twitter, since the game, just because it's one match and these things happen. 3-0 is always going to make you feel like dog shit. We know that. It probably makes the players feel a hell of a lot worse than us as supporters, considering you listed it out there. Despite being overplayed in the first half, we still had a shot in that second half. And I'll get to Tanganga here. I thought it should have been a double red. I thought
right in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it wasn't a tactical foul. It was, but it was violent. And it made absolutely no sense when all you have to do is get a small clip in on him to slow down the run. Anything, tug his shirt, do whatever it is that's going to get you a tactical yellow there. Not a situation where I thought it would have been red. The violence of that tackle, when I watched it back, I mean, he really went at him. And that's disappointing because you have to be smarter than that. You know at this point how crucial you playing for Spurs is, especially in this early half of the season when Romero is going to be eased in, or hopefully, he's not incarcerated anymore and we can go ahead and play some football with him. But neither here nor there, that lack of restraint on the initial piece, and then to factor in the restraint he showed as Zaha's flailing about right in his face, it made no sense because the tackle in the first place was the problem. Jaffet.
Right.
The tackle in the first place was the problem. It was far too violent for a tactical foul. You have to be smarter than that. Hopefully this is a learning experience for him. It's just going to be a major detriment to this team now that he will be out for that Chelsea match on Sunday. It's a really bad series of events here because that makes us hamstrung to Royale on the right. He's going to have his hands full. It means that we don't have the same versatility we would in the middle. If Dyer's hurt, we have a lot of question marks. Are we just going to fly in Sanchez and Romero straight from Croatia on Saturday when I believe is the first day they can come back and then place them on the pitch on Sunday?
I believe so. I think that's absolutely what's going to have to happen because kind of a thing that went under the radar because of the madness of the lineup and then, of course, Tanganga's antics is Hugo Lloris it seemed like an innocent play. He rolled the ball like too far out in front of Dyer, or Dyer slowed down. There just wasn't communication between two players that have played together for 7 years. And Dyer had to catch up to the ball, jabs in there, and then messes up his knee, has to get subbed off by the 12th minute mark. And now it looks like he's not going to be available for sure for the Europa Conference game. And then also Chelsea and maybe going forward from there. There still hasn't been a complete update on Eric Dyer, at least as of this recording. And that now means you're going to have to just go with Dave and Cootie. I don't know how else you go about this. You got, like you said, Tanganga's out on Reds, on a suspension due to Reds. And there's no Dyer in this situation. So you just have to go with those guys. Just cold from Croatia. Hopefully they're getting all the tactical coaching they can get over across the Adriatic Sea, because now they're pretty much it as far as how center backs go. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to Joe Rodon. It's just, if you think about it, Rodon's not able to practice with either of those two, whereas those two are able to practice with each other. And I just think you're going to see those guys start together over Rodon just getting pieced in because they're just going to meet for the first time in a while on Saturday.
I also think the Spanish language will be good for both Cootie
that's a good point.
And for Sanchez.
They'll be able to communicate better. Maybe Rodon finds a place one day next to Romero or whoever, but I just think it has to be Sanchez Romero in this situation, Bucks. And
I do too. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing how that plays out.
Honestly,
what if they have a good game?
Probably for sure our most athletic and talented center back pairing, right? It's just to be a center half, you got to really, really have the the guile, like the intelligence, the feel out there. But I mean, if we're talking like raw talent, that's probably our two best players at center half, right? I would say.
I hope so.
Unless Rocat's better. I don't know. I mean, Roden, I thought, held his own. I thought, unfortunately, Davis was
good.
The one. Davis being asked to play the left side of a center back, that's just not for him. He can maybe be the left side of a back three as a center half, but that just wasn't for Davis, and it showed. He got the handball that led to the PK that just kind of sealed it for Spurs because, I mean, they hadn't really mustered anything on net when they had 11 players, so doing it with 10 wasn't going to happen, Bucks. So once that PK got slotted through, it was donezo for Spurs. And then they got to bring on their new guy, Crystal Palace did, Edouard, who scored 2 more to tack it on just for insult to injury. One comment I wanted to make, Bucks, on the refereeing, because I usually hammer the refs. I actually didn't think it should have been a double red, and I thought the double yellow was the right play. Because you saw the frustration was because Crystal Palace was playing this ball forward when I think it was Lucas was down or whoever was down.
It was Lucas.
It was, yeah. And you don't want to see 2 guys sent off and it changed the entire complexion of the game, for something that could be just considered like this whole controversial deal. And it's not like there was someone struck someone's face. It was a hard tactical foul. Like you said, it was with violence, it seemed like, and it was pretty hard. But I think just because of how the reaction by Zaha played out, it kind of almost like negated or went against Tanganga's hard foul. So like to get the dual yellow, that seemed right to me. Maybe Zaha didn't react and just rolled around on the ground. It's just a red, and that's just what it is, as opposed to him bounced up and wanted to swipe. But it all played itself out, probably rightfully so, in the Crystal Palace supporters' eyes when Tanganga just stupidly flew in and just picked up a yellow for the second time like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, that was the more disappointing one of the two.
Yeah, it's like,
because
bro,
you had the initial hit where you were kind of, your jaw hit the ground. And you're like, oh, that looked bad. Yeah. That could be a red. But then you had just the sheer stupidity of that second card and flying in on a tackle when you were 3 yards away from the man at that point. How would that ever result in a positive movement for Spurs?
It was never going to.
Learning lesson, Tanganga. That was not good, bro. Wasn't good.
I got bad news for you. I know he's your boy, Bucks, and I'm not trying to be critical because I just think you're a young player. You get crazy, and you're playing with all this passion. You want to back your teammates, and maybe that's how he thought he was supposed to. The second one just bothered me more just because it's like, you got to know, man, like you are under the microscope times 1,000. Like it is a borderline orange card you got just 5 minutes ago. So you just got to be smart out there. And your team's backs are against the wall. It's clear. It's not like you were peppering the net and you had the crazy moment just against the run of play. I mean, you were just taking bombs from Crystal Palace of all teams, and he just had to be smarter out there. I now think, though, Bucks, I mean, he just lost Nuno's trust. It reminds me of, remember when Foyth was running forward with the ball and too much of it, I think it was a heavy touch, and then he just went in, spikes up, drew a red, and he just like never played again for Poch, it felt like, and then he gets loaned out. We never see him again. I mean, Tanganga is going to have a 3-game suspension, I assume, and he'll play some Europa Conference.
No, it's one game.
It's one game.
One game.
Okay. So 1 game suspension. By that point, in the Prem at least, you're going to have Dave back. I don't know about the Dyer situation, but you're also going to have Romero back. And then now you have Emerson on the squad. And then tie in the lack of confidence I'm sure now Nuno has for him. I mean, unless he's in like a backup right back scenario and they bring him in against a team like a Chelsea, Liverpool, well, we're playing Chelsea, so it won't be them, but Man U or Liverpool, I just don't know where Tanganga gets on the field again in the Premier League.
At this stage, I think Tanganga is a better right back than Emerson.
I disagree. But
okay.
I mean, you're not selling
believe
Tanganga
in Tanganga
for $30 million. I mean, you're selling Emerson for $30 million. But
I don't think we've seen near the last of Jaffa Tanganga playing for Spurs under Nuno. I think this is a learning moment.
It's a learning moment. It's not over. He's going to play in Europa Conference, but I mean, when do you think his next Prem match will be? Barring injury.
Great question. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll talk about that in the future weeks here.
I mean,
we've got a few comments here that we need to address. We'll start with a little change of pace here. My guy out in Australia, Stark Blind Bags, he DM'd me asking about the Dusk Till Dawn. So he's not here for Tottenham. He's here for the Dusk Till Dawn update. I took it in.
All right. So are you mad at me for blowing it before you give your review?
So I usually tune every single word that you say completely out, Shake. Okay. So I did not remember you blowing it at all. But I got to say, that movie is something. That movie is something.
At what minute mark? I don't remember. At what minute mark did they all become vampires? Like, it's like well into the movie.
Oh, it's like 42 minutes in.
Right. So that's the whole point of the movie. It's like you're watching it and you think it's just like some heist, international, thieves, they're going across the border, whatever. And then it just turns into a vampire movie.
And I got to admit it, the vampires are quite frightening in that film.
A little bit. Selma Hayek. You thought she was fun. Was it Selma Hayek? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah, it was the 5-tool player. 5-tool player Selma Hayek. She could do it all.
So talented.
Actually, 6-tool player.
Yeah.
Also now can act as a vampire. Yeah, she was a drug lord. Quentin Tarantino. Not the best actor in the world, but he certainly held his own.
Really? Next to Clooney?
I think he held his own next to the Kloonman.
So, who did you find yourself most attached to? Like, who did you want to live the most?
None of them.
You wanted all of them to die?
Yeah. Especially Clooney. Clooney thought he was so damn cool, that whole movie. Tarantino's kind of a whack ball. The whole thing. The best part about the film is you leave that film, minutes later, you can't remember a single character's name.
Well, because you're just bewildered. You're like, all right, now they're locking in a room. They're like sharpening steaks. Like one guy's got a jackhammer steak. I think
it was
holy water
cool.
involved. I can't remember now. It was a while ago. I think that was also something that they used to combat the vampires. I remember pulling for. I knew Tarantino's character was dead. I was pulling for like the old man, but I think he ended up going right. I think his daughter made it out with Clooney.
Yes,
I think those were the only two. Yeah, so. I don't know. I was rooting for Clooney to die too.
Yeah, Clooney just
he lived. I don't like that.
Let's just say that was the most miscast I've ever seen George Clooney, only because it was George Clooney being George Clooney, which is his only ability as an actor. But then it just turns into this crazy vampire world. And the budget on that film, I'm sure the special effects and the practical effects were quite costly, but the film was shot in like 4 different places, just 4 different backdrops.
Yeah,
I liked it.
They're in an RV and then they're in the bar. And that's about it, really.
Correct. Yeah. A couple of road shots that might have been CGI. Who knows?
You like when it panned out at the end and it showed like all like the cars like on the other side of the cliff, because you could tell like all the people would stop there and the vampires would kill them all.
Yeah, vampires just kill anybody.
There's just a pile of them in like the basin.
It's pretty good, and I like that. Our guy Stark just posted on the final scene, the zoom out. Yeah, yeah, and then we got this Jerry. First off, the new avatar, the Papa John's Europa Conference League, in all of its glory. You see that, Shakes?
Look at the logo. That's
fantastic. Unreal. It's unreal. And he said, I mean, a guy has a pistol for a crotch, for goodness sake. Yeah, I mean, the film really has it all. The film really has it all.
Are you going to assign it to Tarantino now? You tried to get away with this on a technicality. It's his screenplay.
Yeah, but he didn't direct it. He didn't direct
it.
I'm all about the direction.
You don't think he kind of stopped a couple times to what was it, Rodriguez, and was just like,
yeah,
hey,
Robert
I think we should
Rodriguez.
do this. I think this is what we should do.
He probably did. Who do you think would make the best Spurs Dusk Till Dawn vampire?
Ooh. Hoy Bear. You just can't get rid of him.
Indestructible.
Yeah, he plays every minute.
Plays every murder session.
Who dies first in the vampire movie? Ndombele?
Yeah, I think it's either
it's like Reggie. It's like we lose Reggie by minute 28.
Nah, Reggie's too fast. He'd
Okay.
burn away.
Well, it was confines of the bar.
Dyer would be a pretty tough vampire.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to deal with Dyer the vampire.
I feel like Hugo would be the first to turn because he would get so hooked on drinking the blood that he just, the first taste of blood he had would never stop.
He's then the problem vampire for sure.
Yeah.
Him and Dyer would be. I could see Roden getting out of there. Like Roden would get out of there over Clooney.
Wings ties first. Wings ties first. Oh, this is an awful conversation. I'm sorry, guys. We love you. We don't want you dying, especially not at the hands of those vampires.
Wings for sure goes before Ndombele. Absolutely. 100%
yeah, Harvey Keitel was fantastic, Ian. Definitely a highlight of that film.
I think Lucas gets out of there too alive.
Oh, he always does.
Yeah.
He always does. Couple of interesting pieces here. Ian, Tanganga's inexperience showed he needed somebody to pull him by the shirt to get him calmed down. Yeah, it happened far too quickly. I would have liked to see Kane do a little something there, kind of harness him back in. More defense injuries and suspensions, the better. Maybe Nuno will be forced to have an attacking player on the pitch. Yep, that's a great point. We need that one player that can unlock things. And I really want to believe it's Ndombele, so I hope that we see a good performance from him on Thursday.
Well, I have a question, though. Can you play really, unless you're just dominating possession, then you can play pretty much anyone together, but against like a good side in the Prem, can you play Dele and Ndombele together? Now that you're playing like a 4-3-3 with Dele on the left side there, I don't know, Bucks. I'm not sure if you can duplicate that. I feel like you can get away with playing Lo Celso with Ndombele because Lo Celso is a little bit more technical, fundamentally sound when it comes to like he could play in the 2 double pivot in a 4-2-3-1, whereas Dele, I don't think he can in a 4-2-3-1. But if it's a 4-3-3, it's tough to like ask Ndombele to play next to Dele unless you knew you were dominating possession, which Spurs just do not do with their midfield. Like, unfortunately, that's just apparently not what we got right now. Just sucks. Like, it's like the curse of Moussa Dembele since he's been gone. I just don't know when Spurs like dominate. And I guess your boy Sissoko stepped in for a while, but Spurs don't really dominate the midfield like they used to.
Well, Sissoko, for the most part, just dominated one of the wings. It wasn't like he was doing the yeoman's work in the middle.
No, very true.
Every time we tried to do that with him and Winks, we saw how that went.
Yeah.
Never went too well. He was always better as the right-sided guy who's just there to cover Serge.
Yeah. Do you think Spurs should look at a back 3? Now that we're trying to fix this with this lineup, if you get the other guys back, do you want to play Davis on the left side as a center back, put Romero in the middle where he was very successful for Atalanta, and then on the right side, we could invite your boy Tanganga back, but I think it would be better for Dave. I think I'd rather have athletic Dave there backing up Emerson as a wing back. Then you could play Reggie a little bit more forward. I don't know if that does anything for the midfield, if Spurs would just push them all forward and it would actually work, or next thing you know, you're playing a back 5. But I think what I've gotten sour on, Bucks, is it's like we trot out this like 3-man defensive midfield, basically just get our ass kicked by Crystal Palace. But I really don't know the solution to like try to get control more of the midfield. I mean, I think Skip's a good defensive midfielder and Højbjerg is too. But in a 4-2-3-1, I mean, if you're trying to play counterattack ball and you got Dele in there, it seems to work. I mean, because it worked once against Manchester City, but I just want to see it where Spurs are like dominating possession and taking it to a team. I didn't see it against Watford. Spurs still won the game. And I didn't see it really against Wolves. I mean, Wolves really should have won that game. If not, it should have been a draw. So I'm worried about the midfield, Bucks. That's where I'm going with this.
Oh, I'm extremely worried. We don't have the guy that can unlock it. We don't have a guy that offers a little bit of that defensive nature, but having that key link up, right? Dele is not going to be that player in the middle of the pitch that gets it done. We need somebody that can just turn the key and say, this is my game now. I'm going to create some things that the other team isn't used to seeing from us on film. We're just, it's not great. Alex with a nice comment here. Well, not really a nice one, but I think a very.
Where were you, Alex? Where were you? Let's join in late.
Man, people got lives out there. They don't want to look at our ugly mugs. Joining in late, not sure what was talked about. Is it time to admit Nuno is actually more defensive than Jose, but just a nicer guy? Created one big chance in 4 matches.
Might be that way. We'll have to see. I mean, the way it matched up against Man City, I'm throwing that out because that's just how most teams have to play against them. But and then I guess you can throw out this game. One could argue because of all the crazy changes and injuries. But I don't know, man. I just really the Watford game and the Wolves game. Now you look back at it in hindsight, and it makes you feel more unsettled than thinking kind of like, oh, we gutted it out without our best performance. You know, it's like 2 ways to look at it. I don't know if he's more. He might be just as pragmatic as Jose, but I don't think he's more defensive because he at least pushes his front 3 up more, whereas Jose just straight up parks the bus behind, the midway line. I mean, I feel like Jose, if he's just as defensive, he's like more predominant. Like it just feels more demonstrative by Jose when he does it. Whereas maybe Nuno is kind of still like pulling the wool over my eyes, but it might be the case. Who knows? Alex might be onto something. And if so, that sucks.
I think he's definitely a nicer guy. I would love to have a beer with him.
For sure. Or a wine.
Either or, but, I'm going to have the beer. When I say have a beer, it doesn't mean they have to have a beer. It's really whatever they'd like to take in. But yeah, one big chance, 4 matches. I haven't been overly impressed, but the fact remains, we have 9 points. So I'm happy with 9 points after 4 matches. If you would have told me before this season that we'd be there, I probably would have been a little bit apprehensive on that front. So at least we have that going for us. They can't take away the money we already got in the bank. Now, we missed out on an opportunity. We showed up for a tryout, didn't make the squad on Saturday, and that's going to happen sometimes. With all the changes, I'm willing to just kind of push this one out and see how we perform on Thursday and then on Sunday. Because if we could turn it around, that might spark a little run. And I have a lot of questions about that. We will be going live on Friday afternoon, folks, to discuss the Rennes match, and then we're going to talk about Chelsea in depth. So we'll get here.
And by the way, Alex, what you missed was just some fire Dust Till Dawn talk.
Yeah, Alex, all you missed was 13 minutes of talking about From Dusk Till Dawn, which is a George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino banger. Salma Hayek, the 6-tool player, she was in there. Just an absolute crazy movie. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. I'd recommend something to take the edge off for it because it just turns into this utter ridiculous fest.
The question I wanted to ask you, better or worse than Pulp Fiction? Where does it rank?
Oh, it's worse than Pulp Fiction.
Okay, just making sure. It was a hate test on Pulp Fiction for you.
I told you it's not a hatred thing. It's just not my favorite from him, from Tarantino. It just isn't.
Even now that we have Royale with cheese.
Yep, even with him. We got Mr. Jamesy Wamesy here. Love that name. Worried about Kane, ? I'm worried about what I saw Saturday. Yes.
Kane's worried about getting the ball. So I'm worried about that too. And that goes back to the midfield. We have no creative midfielders. We don't have a midfielder that knows how to move the ball forward. Somehow Højbjerg does it for Denmark at times, and he's done it like every once in a great while for Spurs. But I don't know, Bucks. It doesn't feel like Højbjerg's been a world beater for Spurs either. Can't believe I'm saying that. He's there. He's going to be the Viking. He's going to play his full 90s. But I'm not sure what Spurs want to ask of him. Do you want him to play just more defensive, double pivot it with Skip, and then that means you just have to get Lo Celso or Ndombele in there, or are you going to start asking him to get a little bit more offensive? Because none of these guys are getting the ball to Kane. That's just flat out what's not happening.
Yeah, so that worries me more than Kane, but Kane also just doesn't seem to be putting forth any sort of defensive effort. He's always back for corners, which is great to see. Does a good job with the clearances there, but just overall defensive tenacity, I think, has been lacking for him, and hopefully that comes back as he grows back into game shape, which I thought he would have already been in. That's the concern.
So the question or this comment by Alex Asher, he thinks Nuno asks center mids to be more defensive while Jose asks wingers to track back more. That actually leads into a question I wanted to ask you, Bucks. I mentioned earlier, does it mean you go to a back three? And really, it'd be for this reason. You can look at how England sometimes plays under Southgate, where they'll do a back three, send their wingbacks forward, and then they'll usually sit Declan Rice right above the back three to add support. If Nuno, it's in his DNA to want to play these defensive midfielder, or tell his midfielders to be more defensive in that role, is it just better to have like a Romero flanked with two other center backs and then skip in front of him, and then Nuno feels comfortable in having a defensive midfielder out there and can send the other guys forward? Does that maybe just fit his eye more? Like sometimes a course fits your eye better, Bucks. You just shoot well at it. Maybe that's what the lineup is for Nuno. He needs that.
No, I don't know what that feels like. There's not a single course. Well, maybe Eagles Lakes.
Yes.
But I'm a truthful guy on this show. I like to be an open book.
People like how candid you are and how truthful you are, but I set you up to at least lie once about your golf game, Bucks.
I can't do it. I simply can't lie about it because sooner or later it'll come out. I'll go back over to England and I'll play with a lot of our viewers over there. Well, a lot, hopefully a few, but then it's all exposed because I do go to England and I do enjoy my time there. So if I'm a fraud over here, it's not going to work out. But no, I have no idea what that comfort feels like. In fact, what the course I consider my home course, Eagles Lakes, one of two at the Eagles, I feel more comfortable there, but there's still 4 or 5 holes where I still, after 30 years of playing it, have no idea. 30, let's say 25. 25 years of playing it since I was
Don't age yourself, Bucks.
Well, whatever. I'm 34. When I go out there, I still stumble on those holes. Like I've never played them before. So I have no clue what that feels like. But I think you're right. I think he needs to see something that he sees the vision there a bit more. And I totally agree here, Alex. I think, Jose loved asking the wingers to track back more. When here we're kind of seeing that split into the
Christmas
scenes.
Tree.
Yep.
I love it. The triangle, the Nuno triangle. I just think, he's got this weird predisposition where he just remembers Ruben Neves, like just sitting right in front of those back three. And that's his little security blanket. And Spurs have that. They could do that with Skip. They could do that with Højbjerg. So maybe that's just what you got to ask them to do. It's just, I just can't stand it. And I said this all last year, Bucks. Like, I can't stand a world where it's like when you play a back three, it's like you're basically telling me I'm going to sit like a Lo Celso or an Inform Ndombele, if that'll ever happen, if that's a possibility this year, for like a Dyer or whoever, Sanchez or Davis. Like, it's just like if we could figure out a regular back four, I'd rather get my far more talented and creative midfielder because we just lack in creating chances. But maybe there's just this dynamic world with a back three where Romero's shooting forward like it is Atalanta. And you are seeing him almost as like a holding mid that makes runs forward, and it gives him more of that license. We don't know, though, because he's just 1,000 miles away training overseas because he's running from the Brazilian law.
He's going to be running faster now. I know that.
Probably so. I can't wait till this all starts again in October for the next international break. I guess what we got to root for is that this red list country thing goes away. Is that what we're like? Like, I guess that would solve this problem. Can we just get these countries to play nice with each other as opposed to worrying about, because apparently it's out, like the FAs and FIFA and all that, they're idiots. They all can't figure it out. So maybe governments will figure it out. Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, a lot of faith for the government of Brazil. I think they'll get it all right next time around and not storm the pitch to take away our players. Yeah, I don't know. But I like this from James. It's the way we lost, not that we lost. I think that's true, but I want everybody to take a step back. I think as Spurs supporters, I can only speak for myself, but obviously with all the great interaction with all of you out there on Twitter, on this show, sometimes we just jump off the cliff really quickly. Like we're ending up like we're in Dust Till Dawn, and we're just getting thrown off the cliff by the Vampires after one match. The match sucked. It is one of the most awful performances I've seen out of this club in a long time. So you have to think we can only play better than that, right? Like, I hope did we hit rock bottom in week 4? Because if we hit rock bottom in match week 4,
while top of the table,
that shouldn't have surprised a single one of you out there. If you said you felt comfortable going into Crystal Palace,
well, no, I didn't mean it that way, but yeah.
Well, no, my point is,
while in first,
come on. I'm not going to say the word, but we know what that word is. That just it fits us to a T. It fits us to a T to go out there and get our doors blown off, and for us to have a calamity by Tanganga in that series of 6 minutes or whatever it was. It just suits us, and it's okay. We can bounce back. We've bounced back before, folks. I want this to be a PSA, maybe a TSA, a Tottenham service announcement. We've been here before. You felt this way before. We've been pissed off before. Not just under Jose, not just with this one match under Nuno. Maybe you could factor in the Watford and the Wolves matches. Not just with Pochettino. Happened before Pochettino. We've been here. We're strong. We are built like brick shithouses because we go through the mud every single weekend. And then every Thursday in the Papa John's, Europa Conference League. This is what we do. This is what we are built for. And if you can't shut off the negative side of your brain and think to yourself, we can't play worse than what we've already had to sit through for an hour and a half, then maybe we can have faith that we turn the page, and that's how we roll like Bob Seger. We turn that damn page, Shakes. We turn the page and we open up a picture book because we can't read words good clearly. So now we have our beautiful turn page picture book. I'm looking at the nice rainforests of Brazil, which I've heard are great, and you have no chance of being incarcerated as a member of another country.
Then we play Thursday under the lights and work on our night moves, Bucks.
Yep.
That's how it works.
Exactly.
I like the name of the podcast being The Way We Lost. What do you think?
It's not that we lost, it's the way we lost. I think James just provided us with a great...
Just the way we lost. People will get it. They'll understand.
The way we lost, it sucked, but we've all seen it. We've all seen it.
It's a stark reminder that, yes, it probably wasn't just all Jose sucking. There are some players that need to buy in and try to actually
You mean Nuno?
Yeah. Well, no. I'm saying it wasn't all Jose that sucked last year.
Oh, yeah.
So you do got to blame the players too. I mean, Jose did blame every player, so I think that was false. I think there are good players on this team that you can actually get some good play out of. However, I didn't see it in the first half, nor really the entire second, but in the second half until the red card. Then it was just we all knew what was going to happen at that point. So it is a stark reminder, Bucks, that we still do have the same players on this squad that we just need them to buy in. They need to play well together and figure this shit out. I mean, I can't completely blame it on Nuno. I just couldn't stand, put a bow on it, the tactics. I just could not stand the starting 11. And he's going to have more issues, I think, against Rennes and in the Papa John Europa Conference League game Thursday night, because still we have our players in quarantine, those 3 guys. I think now you just add Dyer to the injury list. I don't think you're going to see Steve or Son. I mean, you're working with this depleted lineup. You're definitely going to have some teenagers listed as substitutes. I don't know if you want to start playing a guy like Højbjerg or, I don't want to play Skip at all if he's coming off an injury and then play a full 90 48 hours later. So I don't want Harry Kane playing on the eve of Chelsea weekend. I just feel like you're going to have this makeshift lineup, and you got to just hope that you eke it out on the talent that you have on the depth of the team and just go from there, and know that you still have other games left in this group stage for the Papa John Europa Conference League.
Every fire needs a spark. Who will be that spark on Thursday, in your opinion?
I think it's Heel.
Well,
it's got to be Brian Heel. I mean, Gil Daddy Flex it looked like he was about to be brought in, and then Tanganga went crazy town. And then we had to bring in Davis, I believe, for Winks to get more defensive. And I think because Winks also got sat and he's playing against an inferior team, I look for Winks to actually start and play well too, Bucks. So I'm banking on Winks. I'm banking on Heel to do something for Spurs against a really, mediocre Rennes team. Let's be real. This team's not like world beaters in League One over here in France. So Spurs just got to like figure this shit out.
Was Crazy Town the band that had that one song that came out like, come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly.
Sugar baby. Yeah.
I mean, that takes just an absolute wizard of the pen to come up with those lyrics. I would love to have a sit
genius.
down. We should have like a break off of this show where we just interview random lead singers or writers for these bands that pop up with one song. Like, what was the inspiration? Not only for the Come My Lady being repeated, but why a butterfly? And just to get the response on that question.
The answer is probably they didn't even write it.
Is butterfly like symbolic thing for like love? Is it?
Be my butterfly.
Are you big in butterfly porn, Shakes?
Sugar. Butterflies don't even go after sugar either. Right?
You big butterfly porn guy, Shakes, or what?
No, tell me about this. What is butterfly porn?
I don't know, Shakes. But I've heard the whole goddamn gamut of porn. I've heard of tentacle stuff. Lord, it's a terrifying world out there.
Time to set your Safari browser to private mode. Butterfly porn.
Folks, do not do that. Kids out there, there's no such thing. This is just my sick brain.
What was where were they going without ever knowing the way? That was like Fastball.
That was Fastball.
Yeah, we should ask him about that lyric. That gem.
But sometimes you're going somewhere and you don't know the way.
True. That's their one song though, right?
No, Fastball had a few. I believe that's
really?
Bob Dylan's son.
So?
I'm just saying, I think it was Bob Dylan's son was the lead singer of Fastball.
He probably had to lead with that. Respect my music. I'm Bob Dylan's son.
My favorite part of this show is
that's
that
quite the shadow to be in, though, as far as songwriting goes.
Because we don't script a single thing. When we get on these little sidebars, I have to pull up. Like, I gotta look it up live, but I love the reactions when we do it.
You looking up butterfly porn?
No, not yet. Of course. All right, there's absolutely not one reference to Bob Dylan's son here.
You said that like so confidently.
Yeah, I really did, man.
Leave Bob Dylan's son alone in this. Yeah.
What was Bob Dylan? Oh, the Wallflowers. Thank you, Jerry. You're always Jerry on the spot.
Wallflowers actually had some hits. Okay.
That's right. So maybe Fastball only had the one song.
Was Wallflowers We Could Be Heroes just for one day?
Man, we are totally gonna write ourselves off on this very show if we keep on shooting and missing at music artists.
People come for the music takes and movie takes, Bucks.
Yeah, one headlight was Wallflowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the road and one headlight are kind of similar though. It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it one headlight or was it the road?
You had to build the road in order to drive the car with the headlight on it.
Yeah.
We going into starting 11s for Rennes.
Yeah, hit me with yours because I think actually you and I for the first time ever have this same 11s.
Back four. Well, I'm gonna go Galini and net, so I want to make sure we're separating that one out. Doughboy himself, Galini. We got Davis on the left, Doherty on the right, Rodin and Tanganga because he's allowed to play in this competition.
Yes,
so
he is.
Get used to seeing him in the Papa John's Europa Conference League. That's the only time you're going to see him. And midfield, I have a 4-3-3, by the way. So the midfield three are Winks, Deli, and Ndombele. So Bucks, after I just shit on playing Ndombele and Deli at the same time, I have them in my starting lineup. And that's because I'd like to think, for the love of God, can we at least try to win the midfield against Rennes? Like, can we do that, Spurs? Please. And then front three, Heel. We're going to ask Moore to just play again. We're like, hey, Lucas, do us a solid. I know you're our best player and the only guy that tried out there against Crystal Palace. do you mind playing another full 90 because Bergwijn's son and we are both hurt and we are not going to play Kane? And I think Scarlett gets the start as well. So who effing knows? It doesn't sound like we're going to finish. Maybe Heel can put something together. Maybe Spurs can get a set piece goal. Not sure how the goals are going to come. Maybe Ndombele, moment of magic, and everyone starts talking about him again. Like, oh, look at that great play against Rennes. That's my 4-3-3 Bucks. I think you have the same. Or did you have Scarlett out? I can't remember now.
No, I have Scarlett in there.
Okay.
We can't roll Kane in there coming off a match on Saturday, throw him in Thursday, and then he gets in there on Sunday. I think he's dead legs by that point.
Wednesday against Poland the Wednesday
before. I think Heel and Scarlett will actually pair up nicely because we've seen in the small glimpses we've had of Heel that he's willing to pull off some pretty nifty crosses down that left wing. And I think that's where Scarlett will actually have his big impact because even though he's a younger fella out there, he's also a bigger guy. So he's got like decent size and shoulders on him. I think he'll be able to kind of factor in because what we haven't seen is men find Scarlett when he's been playing. I think the Gilster could be an X factor here. I have him with a goal assist to Scarlett. I have Ndombele with one of his just there on the edge of the box blasters that gets deflected off 6 people and ends up in the back of the net. 2-1 Spurs.
2-1 Spurs. I have 1-0 Spurs. I'm assuming we just play defensive ball and then just look for something to clip. With that said, I mean, I don't think we get our way, Bucks, when we get this lineup because I just think right now to go from a Skip Højbjerg Winks special to just suddenly Winks, Dele, and Ndombele, that seems rough for Nuno to stomach. It doesn't seem like he's got it in him to play that type of midfield. So even though that's the lineup I want, somehow it's like either Højbjerg shows up or Spurs play back, whatever. I don't think they play back 3, but they'll just somehow figure out a way to spite me, get more defensive, and try to get a 1-0 victory here.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an attack display show. We're not on a road show showing off the attack on Thursday. Yeah. But I think they get it done. I think this is this small piece of redemption here. And since it is the Papa John's Europa Conference League, I got to take this and throw it out. I got to take it out and throw it as an idea. So the question from Ian is, should we change the name to the papajohns.com Europa Conference League? For sure. I feel like it's earned a .com at this point. Yeah,
it definitely should be.
Now I'm going to offer a proposal out to our viewers, especially those that engage with us week over week on the YouTube, but send us a suggestion via Twitter as well at TTPodCoys. You can always follow us here on YouTube. Here is what I'm going to propose. Every week we add on a new sponsor that we then concatenate with all the other sponsors so that by the time we get to this 6th group stage game, it takes us 35 seconds to get through the entire name of the conference league.
So
how do you feel about that?
So it'll be the galleryfurniture.com matchup against Rennes in the group stage of the papajohn.com Europa Conference League.
Brought to you by the Kia Sorrento.
not any other vehicle from Kia, just the Sorrento.
Yeah. So every week we add on something new. So we take suggestions from our listeners and our viewers, and we try to figure out just how ridiculous the papajohns.com. We've already added Papa John's and the .com. So next week we need to add something before the Papa John's, after papajohns.com. Next sponsor, Europa Conference League, brought to you by Kia Sorrento.
If these games are actually televised, I know they're streamed, but maybe at halftime, see who the sponsors are. Let's look for that. We'll see what commercials we can get.
I want it to be as obscure and ridiculous as possible.
I think that will be the commercials. I think that's who will be sponsoring this, just in real life. Like Papa John's might very well be a sponsor.
Like, guarantee you they are in some fashion, but we need to be realistic here. I want to see some weird stuff like Steel, like brought to you by Steel Tools.
by U.S. Steel.
No, steel, like STIHL. I know you've never picked up a ratchet in your life. So
It's a ratchet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
OxyClean would be good, but Billy Mays RIP. I don't want to live through those demons every week.
Did I see Norm Macdonald passed away?
I did. I didn't know if I want to talk about it.
I'm ready to talk about it. Dirty Work, great movie.
Underrated.
Movie. That's an underrated movie. We should have a Dirty Work. I got to rewatch it. At least I didn't get my nose bitten off by a Saigon whore.
What about Norm Macdonald and Billy Madison?
You know what? What's your favorite line by Norm and Billy Madison? My two. I guess it's these two to pick from, unless I'm missing one. He says, like, "Hey Billy, want to feed that donkey some beer? Get it all messed up." And then he goes, "No, not right now, man." He goes, "Okay, well, I'll go get the bucket." Or the TV comes on, like the commercial for the news comes on, and it's like a multi-billionaire hotel conglomerate's son cheated his way through school. And then Norma goes, no, it might be somebody else.
Norm is so good. And this one, his humor and his ability on, especially when he got on the late night talk shows with like Jon Stewart or one of his buddies, he was so killer. Like, and his sense of humor is so dark and twisted, but also he lands everything so perfectly with his cadence and how he delivers the items. Like, if I'm not going to go into it because it is kind of a little bit morbid, but his take with Jon Stewart on the crocodile hunter's death is a top 5 YouTube video, because you see Jon Stewart breaking, and yet you see Norm Macdonald almost getting to that point of breaking, but just sticking with the bit relentlessly. And the joke just gets more ridiculous as he goes through it and more morbid. But I would Google Norm Macdonald crocodile hunter. It's one of the more hilarious delivery of 4 jokes that I've ever heard.
Or Norm Macdonald roasts Bob Saget. Have you seen that one?
Yeah. Well, where it's all, he's just reading a joke book, isn't it?
Yeah. Over and over. Just really commits to it. Yeah.
And he kills it. So good. One of my inspirations. Yeah. So Norm, rest in peace, man. You made a hell of a lot of people laugh. You're one of the funny, Turd Ferguson, the SNL bits were unbelievable.
Weekend Update. He was great.
God, what a legend. Gone too soon.
For sure.
Screw cancer. Screw cancer.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's tough. All right. I got him at a 2-1 win. Shakes at a 1-0 win over Rennes. We'll be back Friday afternoon, and we'll see you then. Danny Shakes, sign the people off.
Let's go. We got to believe. We got to pick ourselves up. It's the Papa John Europa Conference League, brought to you by the Kia Sorrento. Come on, you Spurs.
I can't sign us off yet because Jerry has also done the Photoshop edit to his avatar with the Papa Johns with a huge .com Europa Conference League. Oh, Jerry, you kill me, man. You guys all, you're just wonderful fans and wonderful friends, honestly. Just unreal stuff. COYS,
funnier than us.
So much more. They add so much to the show. Love and respect each one of you. COYS, get it done. Beat Rennes in the papajohns.com Europa Conference League, brought to you by the Kia Sorrento.